If you stopped learning the day you finished school, you've already fallen behind. Jim Rohn once said, "Formal education will make you a living. Self-education will make you a fortune." That line right there, that's not just a quote, that's a life philosophy. Because the world doesn't reward people who know it all. It rewards people who keep learning. See, the greatest thing you can ever invest in is your own mind. And today, I'm going to show you exactly how to educate yourself daily. How to build your brain like a muscle, expand your thinking, and become so sharp that success has no choice but to find you. So grab your coffee, take a breath, and lock in. Because this one's going to change how you look at learning forever. 1. Decide to become a lifelong student. Jim used to say, "The day you stop learning is the day you stop earning." And man, that couldn't be more true. Most people graduate, get a job, and think they're done learning. They've got a diploma, so they hang up their curiosity like it's an old coat. But the top 1%, they never stop being students. Every day they read. Every day they listen. Every day they feed their mind new ideas because they know one thing. If you're not growing, you're dying. So step 1, make learning part of your identity. Not something you do when it's convenient, but something you do because it's who you are. You don't have to sit in a classroom. Your classroom is everywhere. Your car, your phone, your morning walk, your job, your conversations. If you're paying attention, life is constantly teaching you something new. 2. Feed your mind before you feed your body. Jim Rohn had a ritual. He said, "Miss a meal if you have to, but don't miss your reading." That's how serious he was about mental nourishment. Think about it. We feed our bodies every single day without fail. But how often do we feed our minds? If you want your mind to stay strong, sharp, and creative, you gotta give it the fuel it needs. Wisdom, inspiration, knowledge, perspective. Every morning before you scroll your phone, before you dive into chaos, take 30 minutes and pour something good into your head. Read a few pages. Listen to a podcast. Study someone successful. Start your day learning, not reacting. You do that for 30 days. And you'll notice your conversations change. Your decisions improve, your confidence grows. Because when you feed your mind good stuff, it starts producing good results. 3. Turn your car into a mobile classroom. Jim Rohn used to call the car the university on wheels. He said, instead of just driving to work, take yourself to school. If you drive 30 minutes to work and 30 minutes home, that's an hour a day you could be learning. In a year, that's over 250 hours. That's 6 full college semesters worth of personal education. Right there in your car. Pop on an audiobook, a podcast, a lecture, a Jim Rohn classic. Don't just sit in traffic, transform it into training time. You'll show up to work sharper than your coworkers. You'll start connecting dots others can't even see. And slowly, your mind will rise above the crowd. Because when everyone else is wasting time, you're building the skills that'll pay you for life. 4. Read, even if it's just 10 pages a day. Here's the thing, reading doesn't just teach you new info, it changes how you think. Jim said, "Reading is essential for those who seek to rise above the ordinary." You don't need to be a bookworm, you just need consistency. 10 pages a day might not sound like much, but in a year that's over 3,600 pages, that's like 12 to 15 books. And not just any books. Books about mindset, money, habits, leadership, communication. The more you read, the more you see patterns others miss. You start to think on a different frequency, a success frequency. So make reading part of your daily routine. Morning, lunch break, or before bed, just 10 pages. Because what goes into your mind determines what comes out of your mouth and your actions. 5. Learn from people smarter than you. Jim Rohn always said, don't be afraid to borrow wisdom. There's power in mentorship. Even if your mentor doesn't know you personally, you can learn from books, interviews, talks, or even observing someone who's doing it right. Study successful people like a scientist studies data. Ask, what do they do differently? How do they think? What habits do they keep? And here's the key, don't just copy them, adapt what fits your life. Use their wisdom as a blueprint, not a cage. Because success leaves clues, and if you follow the clues long enough, you'll end up finding your own treasure. 6. Listen more than you speak. Jim used to say, one of the best ways to learn is by listening. But you know what most people do? They wait to talk instead of waiting to understand. Every conversation's a chance to learn something new. Every person knows something you don't. But you'll only find out if you shut your mouth long enough to hear it. So when someone's talking, don't just listen to reply, listen to learn. Ask good questions. Pay attention to what's not being said. Smart people talk, but wise people listen. Now listen. Learning's cool, but just soaking up information won't change your life. Jim Rohn used to say, "Don't let your learning lead to knowledge, and let it lead to action." Because knowledge without application, that's just trivia. It makes you sound smart, but doesn't move the needle. You gotta take what you learn and use it. Otherwise, it's like buying a gym membership and never showing up. 1. Turn information into implementation. You read a book? Awesome. But what are you doing with it? You listen to a podcast? Cool. But how are you applying that insight in your day? Here's a simple rule. For every hour you learn, spend an hour applying. Read a book about habits? Pick one habit from that book and commit to practicing it for 7 days. Watched a motivational clip? Ask yourself, what's one thing I can do today because of this? Action turns learning into transformation. That's where the real magic happens. Jim said, "Learning is the beginning of wealth, but it's not the end." You gotta act on what you know, even if it's small steps. Because success doesn't come from knowing better. It comes from doing better. 2. Keep a learning journal. Here's one of Jim Rohn's best-kept secrets. He was obsessed with journaling. He said, a journal is a gathering place for all the valuable pieces of knowledge that come your way. Every time he read something powerful, heard a quote, or learned a lesson, he wrote it down. Why? Because memory fades, but writing cements it. So grab yourself a notebook or even a notes app on your phone. Every day, jot down what you learned today, how you can use it, one action step for tomorrow. In a few months, you'll have your own personal success manual. You'll look back and realize how much you've grown, because what gets written gets remembered. 3. Measure growth like a scientist. Here's a truth bomb. You can't improve what you don't measure. If you're learning daily, track your progress. Don't just say, "I'm learning," and show yourself how. Every week, review your journal. Ask, what did I learn that really stuck? What did I actually apply? What improved because of it? Learning's like compound interest. It grows over time, but only if you keep investing in it. The people who track their growth, they accelerate faster because they can see what's working. So don't guess. Measure your progress like a pro. 4. Repetition is the mother of mastery. You ever notice how Jim Rohn repeated certain ideas in almost every talk? That wasn't by accident. He understood the law of repetition. He said repetition is the mother of skill. You don't master something by hearing it once. You master it by revisiting it, reflecting on it, and applying it again and again. So don't get bored of good ideas. Go over them until they become part of you. If a book changed your life once, read it again. If a quote hit deep, write it on your mirror. If a lesson worked once, double down on it. Because greatness isn't built on new information. It's built on consistent practice. 5. Learn by teaching others. Here's a next-level move right here. Teach what you learn. You don't need to be a guru or have a platform. Just share lessons with your friends, your team, your family. Jim Rohn said, "The best way to learn something is to teach it." Because when you teach, you're forced to organize your thoughts. You understand the material deeper, and you see the gaps in your own knowledge. Plus, you help others grow. And that's real impact. So if you learn something that fires you up, talk about it. Make a post. Share it in conversation. The moment you teach, you double your learning. 6. Learn in small daily doses. Now I know what some folks are thinking. I don't have time to study every day. But here's the thing. You don't need hours. You just need intention. Jim used to say, an apple a day keeps the doctor away. What about a book a week? The point is, daily small doses add up big over time. Read 10 pages. Watch 15 minutes of a seminar. Write 3 lines in your journal. That's all it takes. It's like brushing your teeth. You don't do it for 3 hours once a week. You do it 3 minutes every day. Same with learning. Daily consistency beats occasional intensity, so no excuses. Even if it's a short clip on Jim Rohn Motiva, make learning your non-negotiable. 7. Learn from your mistakes. Jim Rohn said, don't let your learning lead to knowledge. Let it lead to action. Let your action lead to results, and let your results lead to refinement. That means mistakes are lessons in disguise. Every failure, every bad decision, every setback, that's free education. Most folks beat themselves up over mistakes. Smart people mine them for wisdom. So when you mess up, don't just feel bad. Ask questions. What did I learn from this? What will I do differently next time? What's the hidden lesson here? You'll realize that the biggest breakthroughs often come from the biggest blunders. Failure isn't the opposite of learning. It's part of it. Now let's get real for a second. You can read all the books, watch all the videos, and take all the notes in the world. But if your environment is toxic, your growth will always hit a wall. Jim Rohn used to say, "You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with." That's not just a cute quote, that's science and psychology rolled into one. Because who you hang around with shapes how you think, talk, and act. So if you're serious about educating yourself daily, you gotta audit your environment like your success depends on it. Because it does. 1. Audit your circle. Take a hard look around you. Who do you spend time with the most? Are they growing? Do they challenge you to level up? Do they make you want to be sharper, wiser, stronger? Or are they constantly complaining, gossiping, and wasting time? Jim said, don't join an easy crowd. You won't grow there. Facts. If you're always the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. You need people who stretch your thinking, who make you uncomfortable in a good way, who remind you that your comfort zone is your cage. Because education isn't just about books, it's about proximity to better energy. 2. Build a learning tribe. Once you clear out the negative noise, it's time to find your learning tribe. These are the people who get excited about growth, who talk about ideas instead of people, who share insights instead of drama. Start following creators who inspire you. Join groups, communities, masterminds. Watch channels like Jim Rohn Motiva that push your mind forward daily. Even if you don't know them personally, just being connected to a growth community will shift your mindset. Because when learning becomes part of your culture, you stop needing motivation. It becomes your default setting. 3. Control your inputs. You ever notice how easy it is to get sucked into junk info? News, gossip, random opinions, social media drama. All that noise clogs your brain. Jim Rohn used to call it mental candy. It feels good in the moment, but it rots your mind long term. If you want to educate yourself daily, you gotta clean up your input stream. Unfollow negativity. Mute distractions. Limit the useless content that doesn't help you grow. Instead, flood your brain with quality stuff, audiobooks, success talks, wisdom from people who walk the walk. Jim said, what you think about, you bring about. So if your mind's filled with junk, don't be surprised if your life looks like junk too. Protect your focus. It's your most valuable asset. 4. Turn entertainment into education. Here's a secret of high achievers. They still entertain themselves, but they choose educational entertainment. They'll watch documentaries, business breakdowns, TED Talks, biographies. Instead of watching who's dating who, they're studying who's building what. Instead of gossip channels, they're tuning into motivational ones. Jim Rohn said, learn to work harder on yourself than you do on your job. That includes your downtime too. You can relax and still grow if you pick the right content. Next time you open YouTube, ask yourself, is this feeding my brain or numbing it? Because those little choices, hour after hour, determine who you'll become next year. 5. Create a learning environment at home. Let's talk setup. If you want to educate yourself daily, you need to make your environment work for you, not against you. Design your space for growth. Keep your books visible, not stuffed away. Have a notebook ready near your desk or nightstand. Set reminders for learning time on your phone. Make your home an environment that whispers grow. Maybe you play podcasts while cooking. Maybe you read while your coffee brews. Maybe you watch one motivational clip before bed. Tiny cues trigger big habits. Jim Rohn said, motivation is what gets you started. Habit is what keeps you going. Your environment builds that habit. So set it up like your goals matter, because they do. 6. Learn from life itself. Now listen, the best education doesn't always come from books or videos. Sometimes it comes straight from life. Jim said, life is the best teacher if you're willing to pay attention. That means observe your wins and your losses. Watch how people behave. Study your reactions, your emotions, your patterns. Every situation teaches you something, but most folks are too distracted to notice. So next time something good or bad happens, pause and ask, what's the lesson here? Maybe it's patience. Maybe it's humility. Maybe it's learning who not to trust. Every experience is a classroom, if you show up as a student. 7. Break free from comfort education. This one's tough but real. Most people only learn what's comfortable. They read books that agree with them. They watch videos that tell them they're right. They stay in echo chambers of easy ideas. But you don't grow in agreement, you grow in challenge. Jim said, don't wish for less challenge, wish for more wisdom. So step into subjects that stretch your mind. Study perspectives that make you think. Read about finance if you're bad with money. Learn communication if you avoid people. Dive into health if you've been ignoring your body. Growth isn't always fun, but it's always worth it. If it feels uncomfortable, that's a sign you're expanding. Welcome back, legends. You're tuned into Jim Rohn Motiva, where real talk meets real transformation. Now you've built the mindset. You've built the habits. You've shaped your environment. But here's the thing. All that learning, all that wisdom, all that effort means nothing if it doesn't change your life. Jim Rohn used to say, don't just let your learning lead to knowledge. Let it lead to action. Let your action lead to results. And let your results lead to refinement. That right there, that's the formula. Learn, apply, reflect, refine, repeat. That's how you turn education into success. 1. Turn education into execution. Every lesson you learn needs an action plan, even a small one. Otherwise, it's just another good idea floating in your head. Jim would always say, ideas can be life-changing, but only when you act on them. So here's how you do it. Each day after you read or listen to something valuable, write down, what's one thing I can do with this today? Just one thing. Don't overcomplicate it. If you learned something about discipline, wake up 30 minutes earlier. If you learned something about communication, compliment someone today. If you learned something about money, save a small percentage right now. It's not about perfection, it's about momentum. Because once you start connecting knowledge to action, your learning starts to compound. 2. The law of applied learning. Jim Rohn talked about something he called applied learning. He said, learning is the beginning of wealth. Learning is the beginning of health. Learning is the beginning of spirituality. But learning has to be followed by action. See, you can read about fitness all day, but until you get up and move, nothing changes. You can study wealth for years, but until you start managing your money differently, you'll stay broke. Applied learning is where knowledge turns into wisdom. It's where you stop knowing about success and start living it. So from now on, every time you learn something new, ask yourself, how do I apply this in the next 24 hours? That's how you stay in motion. 3. The feedback loop. Jim always said, success is predictable. That means your results are a reflection of your habits, and your habits are shaped by what you learn and apply. But here's the missing piece, feedback. When you try something, pay attention to what works and what doesn't. Then adjust. You learn, you act, you assess, you improve. That's how pros get better. They're not afraid of feedback. You might fail the first time. You might fail 5 times. But each time, you're collecting data, and data turns into wisdom. Jim said, don't wish it were easier, wish you were better, and feedback makes you better, every single time. 4. Teach and multiply what you learn. You want to really lock in your education? Teach it. Every time you share an idea, a quote, or a lesson, you reinforce it in your own brain. You become more articulate. You think clearer, and people start seeing you as a leader. Jim said, when you teach, you double your learning. So tell your friends what you learned from that book. Post a short takeaway from this video. Discuss what's working for you at your job or business. The moment you teach, your knowledge becomes part of your identity. Not just something you know, but something you live. 5. Education should show up in your results. At some point, all this daily learning should start showing up. In your career, your bank account, your mindset, your relationships. Jim Rohn used to challenge people by asking, if you keep on doing what you're doing, where will you be in 5 years? If the answer scares you, good. That means it's time to apply what you've learned. You don't need to wait for someday. Start right now. Tiny daily improvements lead to massive long-term change. If you study sales, sell better today. If you study leadership, Lead better today. If you study health, eat better today. Education's not just for your brain. It's for your life. When you learn something that moves the needle, your world starts to shift. Here's 6, protect the growth mindset. You'll notice something wild once you start educating yourself daily. Most people won't get it. They'll call you obsessed. They'll say, you've changed. They'll try to pull you back to the old you, the comfortable one. But Jim Rohn had a reply for that. He said, if you don't design your own life plan, chances are you'll fall into someone else's, and guess what they have planned for you? Not much. So yeah, you should change, because growth changes you. It upgrades your standards. The more you learn, the less you settle. And that makes average people uncomfortable. But you're not average. You're a builder, a student, a grinder. Someone who's choosing wisdom over comfort. Keep that mindset safe. Guard it like your future depends on it. Because it does. 7, keep learning forever. Let's bring it home with this, champ. Jim Rohn used to say, the book you don't read won't help. That's deep. Meaning, there will always be more to learn, but it only works if you keep doing it. Never stop feeding your mind. Never stop chasing wisdom. Never stop being a student. Every day. Learn a little. Apply a little. Reflect a little. That's how you win the long game. Because the truth is, you don't have to be the smartest person in the room. You just have to be the one who keeps learning. And closing, let's call to action. And that's a wrap, my friend. That's how you educate yourself daily. Jim Rohn style. Feed your mind. Surround yourself with greatness. Apply what you learn. And let your results speak louder than your words. If this message hit home, drop AI in the comments and tell me what part spoke to you most. Hit that like button if you're building the better you.